I don't believe in parents telling other parents what to do. Parenting is a unique journey. It's a difficult journey. It is something that we all do with our best ability possible. And I promise you, whether you're a parent or not, everything I'm going to share today is applicable to you. Because so much of what I'll talk about today not only is important for our kids and how we parent them, but also for us in our own personal growth and reparenting journey, right? Because so much of our personal growth is about reparenting ourselves on the things that we didn't, on the beliefs, on the patterns, on all the things that we developed as kids from our experiences that may not have led us to become or act in the way that we want. And so everything I'm going to share today is going to be in line with you, whether you are a parent or not. So to jump right in, number one thing that I think about when it comes to my kids, and this, I thought about this from when they were little, now when they're kind of in those middle stages, and I'm going to continue to think about it when they are teenagers, right, and older, is that you have to care about effort and growth, not about results. I know a lot of you, I'm sure, have heard about growth mindset stuff. It is something that changed my parenting world when I first learned about it. Unfortunately, I learned about it after my first one had been a few years old. And I realized as soon as I really got into the growth mindset stuff that I had done some things as a parent that weren't ideal, that I really wasn't teaching them about growth and their mindset rather than the results they were getting. So I'll share a quick little story. Just the other day, I think it was literally on Monday this week, my middle son, Lucas, came home and he said, hey, Dad, all my friends at school say that you're the best dad. And I was like, what do you mean your friends? Your friends don't know me. Why do they say that I'm the best dad? And he says to me, because they know that you don't care about my grades. You just care about the effort that I put in. And I was like, yes, it was like hit me in the heart, made me realize that, that's what I teach my kids is that I don't care about their grades. I don't. 2 out of my 3 are getting grades now. The youngest is still, kind of the pass fail type of stuff. But with my other 2, they're both getting grades. They happen to be doing great. Straight A's across the board. It doesn't matter to me though. What I care about is that they're doing their best in whatever they're doing, that they are continuing to learn how to grow, how to think. And I say this because I know in working with adults, I can tell you from running a business that I don't care about what school somebody went to, what grades they got. What I care about is that somebody has the ability to learn and think and problem solve. I think that your grades matter if you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or something where you're going to get a degree. But other than that, in terms of building life skills, I care more about them putting in that effort and working to grow than I do about them stressing about grades. I remember myself growing up, I stressed about my grades so much, especially when I got to college. I was just so anxious about all of that. And so I don't want to put that same kind of stress on my kids. And so I always tell them, again, it is not the result that I care about. It's the effort that I care about. When they don't do great on something, I'll just say, well, hey, how did you feel about that? Did you do your best? Are you happy with your effort? If they say, well, no, I didn't really put in a lot of effort. I didn't study. I go, well, then that's something to think about how you can do better, because I know that's what I care about. If they tell me they did their best and they didn't get a great grade, it doesn't matter to me. Same with sports, same with any kind of activities. And that goes for all of us as adults. We put so much pressure on ourselves around the results that we expect ourselves to get, all that perfectionism that so many adults deal with, and not about just going, hey, how can I just learn how to learn? How can I learn to do my best and put in the effort and enjoy the process in life to get stronger, to get wiser, to get more happiness and loving in our character? I think that's really what life is really all about. So that's one of the first things I focus on. Number 2, with my kids, is to cultivate positive experiences. Cultivate positive experiences, both with you, with your family, and for them on their own. I'll give you a couple quick examples here of how I do this with my kids. Number 1, with parents, with us, so my kids with me, is presence. And there's a great line that I learned years ago from my very good friend, Brendan Burchard, which is, kids want your presence, not your presence. I loved that line when I first heard about it from him years ago. Kids want your presence, not your presence, right? And so I make sure to do little things with my kids, little things where I'm just present with them. Beginning of this week, here in Newtown, Connecticut, there have been issues with the buses. with not having enough bus drivers all the time. And so we got a text in the morning saying, hey, no bus running for my son. And so I said, great, no worries. We'll go out. We're going to go to a little coffee shop ahead of time. I got coffee with him. We spent some time together. He got a coffee. He's wanting to, he's 12. He's about to turn 13. He's wanting a little bit of coffee to be like his dad. But I make sure to put in that time to be present with my kids, because that is what matters so much, is that you're present with them and you build those experiences with friends as well. My middle son, Lucas, we talk to him a lot. He struggled a little bit at school that he's got this really big personality and he's talking a lot, and the teachers kind of sometimes try to calm him down. And I say, look, you be yourself. But we always teach him about how to be supportive to other people. And the other day, he came home and he said, there was a kid, we were playing wiffle ball in gym class and he was struggling. And I made sure I saw some of the other kids being tough on him and giggling about it. And he said, he said that he was positive towards me. He said, hey, you got this, don't worry, you can do it. And the kid nailed it, hit the ball so far, did great, and he was happy. And I asked him, I said, how did that feel to you? How did that kindness feel to you? Right? And so cultivating those experiences where a child feels a particularly strong emotion, a positive emotion, super important. And then I remember those things. I actually write those things down in terms of what those experiences are so that I can remind them of them later, about how it feels to actually be kind to other people, to be nice to other people, to support other people. So they build that in themselves. And then also on their own. My daughter Olivia, this last season, was learning how to ski, super frustrated because she was the last one to learn. Her brothers are skiing or flying down the mountain faster than I do now. And she really struggled. I kept supporting her. Finally, she got it. By the end of the day, she just felt so much better. And I remind her of that experience constantly when she has something tough going on, right? When she's struggling with something, I go, hey, do you remember that time when you were skiing and you said at the beginning of the day that you couldn't do it and you were falling down and you were crying, and I kept supporting you and telling you could do it? Remember, you did something really hard, right? And so I make sure to cultivate those experiences with my kids that build particular beliefs in them about themselves, right? And this is an important thing that we do with friends in our lives, with family members in our lives, and with ourselves. And we cultivate experiences that are positive and that we actually remind ourselves of those experiences. I tell people, I do it in my planner every 2 weeks. So I say, I go through the things that I did and I write down the actual accomplishments that I had, because it is so easy to actually forget the things that we've done well and to only notice the things we've done bad, that we've done poorly. And our kids do the same thing. And so we have to remind them and cultivate those memories of those positive experiences in their minds so that they remember them going forward. So that's number 2. Number 3 is language matters. All right, I'm gonna say that again. Language matters. Listen to their language patterns. When they're little, you're not gonna have as much language coming out of them. But as soon as they start to say more, as soon as they start to speak, and they get into those ages, really, look, 0 to 6 years old are formative years in terms of internal beliefs. But even beyond that, we continue to build our beliefs. But listen to their language patterns, and specifically listen to language that where they show their actual beliefs. One of the most powerful words that somebody can say is "I am," and then what comes after that, right? They say "I am this" or "I am that." And so it's important to listen to those statements to be aware of the beliefs that they're actually cultivating for themselves. Again, does this apply only to our kids, or does it actually also apply to all of us as well, right? All of us as adults, you've heard me do this with tapping in previous months, where I'll say, let's look at your beliefs. And you go, and I'll say, just answer this for yourself. Say, I am blank. Like in relationships, I am. And then what comes after that will let you know what your belief is. Listen to those language patterns with your kids so that you can help them to cultivate better language patterns and better beliefs within themselves. I want to talk about stepping into leadership, really about how we get ourselves to step into leadership to become the best version of ourselves. I think we tend to think about leadership as how we lead our employees or our coworkers, but really for me, leadership is about how you show up in life. It's about how you lead all the time, not just some of the time. I'm a parent of 3 kids. I have an 8, 10, and 12-year-old. So every day is about leadership for me, with how I'm leading them and how I'm modeling the behavior that I want to see in them by actually showing up as that leader myself. Leadership is also about, how we show up in relationships. It's being the one to go, you know what, I could keep fighting and keep trying to be right on this, or I can think, how can I get us out of this funk? How can I push us through this challenge? How can I show up as a leader to be the best version of myself, to help guide my partner, my spouse, to be a better version of him or herself? And leadership is also just about how we treat everybody in the world. It's how we treat the person bagging our groceries. It's how we treat the other parents on the sideline of the soccer field, which, I've got two boys who do soccer practices and soccer games. Sometimes it's a crazy environment. So leadership is about all of those situations in life and how we show up as our best selves in a way where we are bringing people up to be their best selves. Leadership begins internally, not externally. Learn to lead yourself first with how you treat yourself, how you push yourself, and what you demand from yourself. When you learn to lead yourself, others will see it and begin to follow your example. That is the essence of true leadership. If you're a leader, you are going to be challenged every day. If you're a business owner, you know what it's like. Again, I have 25 team members now. I had to face challenges of getting up to 5 team members and then 10 team members. And years ago, 5 team members was overwhelming to me. 25 is fine. I'll probably hire another 5 over the next 30 days because I'm learning to be able to deal with more challenges, with more resiliency, and to be able to stay calm and find the ways that I can be a better leader for different people. There's no difference for you. There's no difference in you and what you're capable of, whether you have a business where you're doing $100,000 in sales or $10 million in sales. Like, you are capable of any of those levels. It's a matter of how you're showing up in the world and whether you're able to deal with the challenges that come up as you grow a business or as you lead a team or as you grow a family, right? I mean, the most challenging business I run is the one in my household with 3 kids. That is where I'm challenged the most. If my employees ever acted the way my kids do to me, oh my God, I don't know. I think I'd yell at all of them and be like, I can't take you guys as employees. But that's the biggest challenge. So I say, if you can manage your kids and team members, employees, coworkers, bosses, way easier than kids are. Let's go ahead and jump into doing some tapping. And so I want to tap on getting calm. And I want you to think specifically about what type of challenge are you facing right now where you need to show up as a better version of yourself, as a better leader. Again, this can be in a relationship with your spouse. So many times in my relationship with my spouse where I go, you know what, I could fight back right now or argue and say, no, you're wrong and you're not seeing this. And I go, no, I want to be a leader here and I want to show up as my best self so that our relationship grows. So let's go ahead and all just kind of sit up straight, sit up in your chair. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and breathe out. And I want you to think about this challenge that you're facing right now. Whether, as I said, it's leading a team member, leading yourself. As I said, it's always about leading ourselves, even when we're leading somebody else. It's always about leading ourselves first. And just think about this challenge and think about what emotion comes up for you when you think about this challenge. Are you frustrated? Are you angry? Are you frustrated with somebody else? Are you angry with somebody else? Are you disappointed in yourself? What emotion comes up for you? And then go ahead and measure that on a level of 0 to 10, where 10 is that it's absolutely super strong. If it's a team member or employee, you're like, you're so disappointed or angry with this person. Or if it's yourself, you're so disappointed and angry with yourself. And 0, it's like, no, nothing there, nothing at all. So just notice where that is for yourself. And remember that. I'll ask you at the end to see how that shifted for you. And go ahead and take one more deep breath in. And breathe out. And let's go ahead and start tapping on the karate chop point. Just repeat after me. Even though I'm feeling this tension in my body, because I'm dealing with this challenge, I acknowledge and accept what I'm feeling right now. Even though I'm dealing with this overwhelming challenge and I just don't know what to do, I acknowledge and accept what I'm feeling right now. And then one more time there on the side of the hand, even though I'm feeling all this tension in my body, when I think about this challenge, I choose to be a better version of myself today. All this anxiety in my body. Side of the eye, all this tension in my body. Under the eye, I'm so frustrated with, and then fill in that blank for you. I'm so frustrated with, and put that in for you. Fill in that blank for you. Chin point, I want to find a way to show up in a bigger way. Collarbone point, I know this challenge is here for a reason. Under the arm, to challenge me to be a better version of myself. Top of the head, to step up as a bigger leader. Eyebrow point, but I'm so frustrated. Side of the eye, I know I'm capable of more. Under the eye, I'm capable of being a better leader. Under the nose, for myself and for others. Chin point, how could I show up in a bigger way? Collarbone point, how can I be a better model in this situation? Under the arm, I think I'll start by just calming it all down. Top of the head, I know I'm capable of so much when I'm calm. Eyebrow point, so I choose to breathe in this moment. Side of the eye, and allow this tension to release from my body. Under the eye, I'm capable of solving any challenge. Under the nose, I choose to start by leading myself. Chin point, by being kind and forgiving with myself. Collarbone point, by being loving and nurturing to myself. Under the arm, and by letting myself know top of the head, that regardless of the challenge, I am okay. Back to the eyebrow point. Sometimes things feel like life or death. Side of the eye, when I feel conflict with others or myself. Under the eye, it makes me want to scream inside. Under the nose, but I choose to breathe in this moment. Chin point, and to know that I'm okay. Collarbone point, I can solve any challenge. By leading myself internally. Top of the head, and showing up as my best self for others. So let's stop there and take a deep breath in. And breathe out. Just move your body a little bit. Notice what you're feeling. If you had some tension somewhere in your body, if it was in your knee, move that knee a little bit and go, well, is that shifted at all? Because so often we just simply don't breathe in our body. We have all this tension in our body. And sometimes people go, well, how does tapping help with physical pain? Well, when we're not breathing, when we're holding all that tension in our body, it creates physical pain. When we actually allow ourselves to breathe and to relax and to move the energy in our body, physical pain can be released in our body as well. Today, we're going to be talking about the topic of calm, striving, and productivity. This is a topic that I'm incredibly passionate about. For any of you who follow us at the Tapping Solution, you know that it's a lot of the work that I do is on productivity. That's why I have a Tapping Solution planner that I spent 2 years designing, that I launched about a year ago, modeling it off of the amazing planner that Brendan has as well. But really what I wanted was to include tapping in that process for me on a daily basis. And in all honesty, I created the planner literally just for me, because it was like, I want something to help me on a daily basis to be able to stay calmer and more balanced and more centered every single day, because we live in a world with incredible distraction, with the news, with social media, with work, with kids. I said it before, I got 3 kids, 8, 10, and 12. I will just say, for all of you who have kids, who are just as happy as I am that they're back in school right now. Certainly, I'm becoming more productive. This week was amazing with my productivity because my kids were in school. I am a very present father with my kids. And so, when they go back to school, I become more productive. But so the question is, how do we balance all of these things? How do we make ourselves more productive and in a way where we're actually calm and enjoying the process? And so I want to start today just with an underlying principle that I ask that you keep in mind as we go through this whole process. And that is the understanding of how our brains work when it comes to our emotional energy and our ability to actually utilize our highest resources. If you've heard me talk before, you've heard me talk about how when we do tapping, we actually send a calming signal to the amygdala in the brain, which is the fight or flight response center in the brain. And the reason why this is really important for productivity is, when we want to be more productive, when we want to make better decisions, when we want to be able to look towards the future and go, hey, do I do this or do I do this? What are the consequences going to be? That comes from utilizing our prefrontal cortex. It's the most modern part of the brain. The challenge is that when our amygdala is firing, that fight or flight response, when we're stressed or overwhelmed or anxious, that takes away our ability to access our prefrontal cortex. And so we literally become dumber. Not that we're actually dumber, but we're not actually able to access our highest resources. And so an example I like to give when it comes to this, which I think it really resonates for a lot of people because we can all connect to it, is when it comes to public speaking. If you've ever had to speak in public, whether it's in a meeting with 10 people or on a stage or wherever it might be, and you've prepared and you got to present something and you're ready, and then you go to present and you go and you just freeze, right? You freeze. You all this preparation and yet you freeze. It's the reason why it's the number one fear in the world, is because of that response that we have. And you go, well, why can't I remember anything? Like I practice, I learned this, I know this stuff, and yet I can't remember it. And that is because that amygdala is firing at probably a level 10 if you're really stressed out. And it's not that you don't have the information, it's that you can't access it anymore. Now, the challenge is that on a daily basis, people aren't at a level 10 most of the time, but they still live at a 6 or a 7 or an 8 with emotions that come up that limit our ability to access our highest resources. And so striving to be calm with productivity is not just because it's a more enjoyable process. I certainly enjoy life more when I'm calm, but it's also because being productive, a prerequisite to being productive is being calm. You literally can't access your highest resources unless you are calm. And so if you think about, top athletes, top CEOs, business owners, people in the military, they train and practice to prepare themselves to be under really tough situations and not be overly stressed and overwhelmed so they can still access their highest resources and still make good decisions. And so if you want to be more productive in your life and you want to get more of the things done that you want to do, it's really important that you think about, well, how can I be calmer? How can I control my emotions and actually be able to control them rather than having them control me? So I just wanted to remind us all that that is so much of the goal that we're striving towards when it comes to productivity. It's not, I believe that all of us have the ability and resources to do anything that we want in the world. What keeps us from being able to do that is what's between here and here most of the time, right in our brain. And so today, when I think about productivity, I generally think about it with two things. So productivity is about doing things that matter, right? Doing the things that matter, that actually move the needle forward in your life, and doing them consistently. right? It doesn't, if you just, if you know the things that you got to do, but you struggle every day, you get distracted, you go in other tangents, that, you know, that shiny object comes along and you go and look at it, then you're not creating consistency. And also, if you don't know what it is that you actually want to do, you can work and do all sorts of things. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, well, why am I here? Well, it's because you never really decided where you wanted to go. And I think about those two things almost like the way I think about weight loss. Weight loss at its most simplified form is, what do? You have to eat less and exercise more, right? That's the simplest way to look at weight loss, is eat less and exercise more. And when I think about productivity, I think about, well, I need to get really clear on the things that actually matter, and I need to do them more consistently, right? Those two things. Now, there are things that get in the way of being able to do that. So what gets in the way? Number one is a lack of clarity on what you want will stop you from having that clarity. I know Brendan is really big on clarity. He talks about it a lot. I can't stress it enough. To be getting clear on what you want on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis. Literally, so many people think they are too busy to stop and create that space to create clarity, but it is so incredibly important to do that on an ongoing basis. And so you need to be able to do that as number one. Number two is emotional distractions get in the way of consistency. Now, what do I mean about emotional distractions? I mean negative emotions, limiting beliefs, past traumas, fears, challenges with safety. These are all the things that come up in our life that keep us from being consistent. I'm sure you've all had the experience of, you know, you get through your week and you look back at your week and you're like, what did I get done? Right? Like I had intentions of what I wanted to get done, but I got distracted by this, and stuff came up with the kids. I was stressed about money, all the different things in life that distract us from staying focused. Right? I think the biggest commodity that there is today when it comes to productivity is focus. Right? We have so much distraction from social media to just everything in our world that I know, for example, when I look to hire on our team, I really look for people who know how to cut out the distractions and know how to actually be focused and get things done. And so when you can remove those emotional distractions, and of course, we're going to use tapping to do that, and create that focus on a more consistent basis, you're going to continue to move your life forward in the direction you want on a more ongoing, consistent basis, right? So here are the things that we think about when it comes to moving in this direction. What we want to do is really want to rewire our brains and our nervous system with tools like tapping. So when it comes to clarity, I use a number of tools. I use my tapping solution planner. Again, I recommend using some type of planner, my planner, Brendan's planner, a journal, whatever it might be. You can use something like a battle board, which Brendan talks about. You can't see it here, but up on my wall right here, I got a big whiteboard with all sorts of things on there that really make it that I'm focused every day on the things that matter to me. And so when I work on creating clarity, there are two main areas that I focus on. Number one is getting clear on what matters in life. This is so important to, at your core, when things are stressing you, when you are overwhelmed, to have an understanding, have clear beliefs on the things that matter to you in life. What truly matters, I'll tell you what mine are. What truly matters at the end of the day, when I'm stressed or overwhelmed or this is going on or something's not going the way I want to, I will stop and I remind myself that what truly matters to me is my health and my happiness, right? If I can be healthy and I can be happy with the things that make me happy, that is all that truly matters. We tend to, in this world, this is why our amygdala is triggered constantly, we tend to think that things are more important than they actually are. Right? So I don't personally allow chronic stress to be a part of my life. I just have trained myself, trained my nervous system to recognize when chronic stress, when repeated stress is coming into my life, and to have routine interruptions on a morning basis, on an evening basis, on weekends. I go through processes to make sure that I am stopping the stress, rebooting my nervous system so that I do not fall into chronic stress, right? And so I'll give you my basics of what makes me happy. Exercise. Exercise is so important to me. For me, if I happen to be able to play soccer, I'm a huge soccer fanatic. I played my whole life. You know, I still go and play pickup soccer with, with old men like me. I'm turning 40 next week, is it? I'm turning 40 next week. So I get to call myself an older person every next week. I'll be able to say I'm much older now. But playing soccer, it enlivens me. And I recognize, okay, this is one of the things I have to do that really matter to me in life. And if I can get up every day and exercise and move my body, that is a core thing for me that makes me happy. And then it's being present with my wife. And I mean present time with my wife, right? Not just any time with my wife. We all have people in our lives, our family, our friends we spend time with. The question is, do we have present time with them when we don't have all those emotional distractions, all those things going on in the back of our head when we're worrying about work and all those other things. So I think about, I want to be present with my wife, present with my kids, and present with my friends. If I can, consistently exercise and be present with my friends and family, that is what matters to me at my core. There are lots of things that I want to do. I want to grow my business. I want to make a bigger impact, but those are wants. They're not needs. They're not something I absolutely have to do. They're the things that I strive to do because they make me happier. But I make sure that I know what truly matters in my life. It's not, how many followers do I have on Instagram? It's not how much money I'm making. It's not those things. It's, can I move my body? Can I keep myself alive, right? Life is the most limited resource we have on this planet. And so if I can do everything I can to take care of my health, then I'm happy. And then spending time with the people that matter to me. So that's an important part of clarity. It is so good to see you all. I'm excited about this topic of finishing the year strong, because I feel like so often people get into the fourth quarter of the year, and this is the toughest time. I mean, you really have to be on your A game in the fourth quarter of the year, because you're coming up on, for those of you who have kids, the Halloween time. I've got 3 kids, 8, 10, and 12, the Halloween time with candy. We get into Thanksgiving with all the Thanksgiving food and all that stuff. And then we start stressing out and worrying about all the Christmas presents. We get into the holiday season. And what so often happens is those goals that we built in January, February, when we've already haven't done great during the year, we get to the last 3 months of the year and we go, well, just forget it. I'm just gonna lay into it. I'll give myself a break and just eat all this food. And this is when we put on weight, when we struggle, when we make poor decisions. And what I'm going to challenge you all to do today is to say, you know what? No, I'm going to make the fourth quarter of the year the best quarter of the year that I have. I'm not just going to go with the flow. I'm going to make this the best quarter of the year that I can possibly have. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons that I'm excited about this today is because I was looking at my Q3, at my third quarter, and I didn't use 2 years ago look at things in terms of quarters of the year, but I do now, probably because of my business, but I also look at it in my personal life. And the third quarter of the year, I really struggled with a lot of things. I turned 40 last month, and I know I'd had a goal for a while to make 40, to be in the best shape of my life when I turned 40. And guess what? I failed miserably at that goal. Not that I was in bad shape, but I had injuries like this. This happened like 3 weeks ago, where I was playing soccer indoors on a turf that has like concrete underneath it, full speed. Somebody trips me up. I go slam down into the ground, sprained my wrist, sprained my elbow. I'm glad this wasn't 2 weeks ago, because I could barely move 2 weeks ago. I was in so much pain. I did that. I sprained my ankle earlier in the quarter. My kids were sick this quarter. I was sick when I sprained my elbow because, when you get hurt, I wasn't sleeping. And so this was just a rough quarter for me. And I just had to stop and go, hey, you know what? Look, this was tough. I got to stop and acknowledge what's happened, acknowledge it's been tough, let go of some things so that I can move forward. And so what we're going to do today is to really stop and take a look at what we have, how things are going so far this year, and build on the energy and refocus ourselves for the fourth quarter of the year. Life is too short to just give up 3 months to Thanksgiving and Christmas and the stress and the anxiety and all that stuff. This is really the time to get refocused and bring our A game to what we're doing. So here's what we're going to start with. Step number 1 in this process is always going to be to review and acknowledge, right? So this is something I do in my tapping session planner. I know for all of you now in the GrowthDay app, it's such an amazing place to do it right now, to be able to journal in there. And so I look at now going into the fourth quarter of the year, as I stop and I go, what were those goals that I started the year with? If you think about January, when you were all motivated and excited and you got into the new year, what were some of those goals that you had? And did you actually move forward with those goals in the way that you wanted? Right? How do you think you've done so far this year? And there's 2 ways that we're going to look at this. Number 1 is we're going to look at what didn't you accomplish, right? What didn't go well? What didn't go well, and goals that you set where you feel like, I just didn't accomplish that. The other side of this, and this is a part that's always ignored, and it's just kind of the way our brains work. For those of you who know about the negativity bias, we always seem to find the things that are wrong. But we also have to look at, what did you accomplish, right? What did you accomplish? What went well for you? And I'll tell you, this is a process that I do every 2 weeks in my planner. I will not only write down the things from those past 2 weeks that I didn't do well, that I didn't accomplish, but I really make sure to look at, well, what did I accomplish? So that I can celebrate that, because that is one of the biggest challenges that we all have, is we'll have these amazing accomplishments, amazing things that we do, and we just blow it off and go, yeah, but I know I got that done, but so what? I didn't get this done, and this done, and this done, and this done, and this done. And it's really difficult to build self-confidence and to build momentum when our brains are always finding what's wrong, when we're not stopping to acknowledge the things that are going well in our lives. And so it is super important now, going into this, we're already in the fourth quarter, it's October 7th, but if you haven't done it yet, to stop and to review and acknowledge what's been going on. So what were those goals that you had in the first place? If you haven't looked at those goals, or you never set those goals, maybe now is the time to do that for the last 3 months of the year, to go, you know what, if I want to make 2022 the best year possible, now's the time to start. Now's the time to start and get motivated and get focused on what you want to get done. So we start off by saying, what were those goals we had in the first place? What didn't I accomplish? What didn't go well? And then what things did I accomplish that I need to celebrate? One of the most common things that I hear people say all the time is that I'm not far along enough, right? This is a common belief that probably 99% of people have, unless they happen to have a super focused 3 months or 6 months or year, is they feel like they are not as far along as they should be. So we have to start off from that place of just going, you know what? Step number one, I'm going to review and acknowledge how I've done this year. I'm not just going to go into the fourth quarter, ignoring it all. I'm going to stop, look at it. What are the things that I've done that are good? What are the things that I've done that are not good? And able to move forward. We want to talk today about what trauma is, how it impacts our lives, and really to remove the stigma of trauma. And so my number one intention when it comes to this topic of trauma is to give a voice to all of the men and women who I know struggle with this topic on a regular basis, to let them know that if you're struggling in a relationship, if you're struggling to feel like you're normal, if you're struggling to live what you would consider to be a normal life, to know that you are not broken. Yeah. To know that there is nothing wrong with you, that all those feelings of feeling like you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that you're not lovable, that it is not your fault, you are not broken, and I want to help to give you a voice in your journey here. With that, I'm going to quiet myself, and I would love for you to talk not only about, what trauma is, to really define it, because I think very often it's misidentified or misdefined. Yeah. And I want you to talk about your story, because I think your story is so powerful. I'm always so in awe of what you have gone through in your life and really how you have grown through it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as you'd mentioned, there's the different versions of trauma. There's the bigger T, we might call it, big T trauma, the car accident, the warfare, the veteran who comes back and tries to integrate into society. But there's also the little T traumas. I never personally liked that definition, but that's kind of how it's easiest to see it. And those are things like financial challenges, being bullied as a kid, having to get up and speak and something going wrong, and the embarrassment that we may have felt about that, undergoing a medical or dental procedure. All of these things can be traumatic. And for me, what the most important thing around trauma, any kind of trauma, to understand is that it isn't what anyone else perceives it to be. It's about, if it felt traumatic, then it was. And with that, it's important to also understand that trauma is really anything that feels too big, too much, too fast for us to process within our body and our nervous system in the moment. And that means that there's a residue that takes over and hangs over into our life through not just whether it was childhood or adulthood, but we see it showing up in all areas of our life. And in all of our relationships, in any kind of relationship, and especially what we're talking about today is with loving and intimate relationships. And you'd asked about my story.
Yeah.
I'm sort of on the end of the bigger T traumas for a lot of it. I won't go into all of it. There's not time for that, but just a few pieces of that. The day I was born, my grandmother tried to kill herself. That was the beginning of me feeling unworthy of existing, feeling like there was something about me that was inherently bad and shameful that had caused somebody else so much pain that they wanted to take their own life. And with work through that, I obviously realized that that was her stuff, her challenges, her trauma. But the beliefs and the impact of that has been something that has very much informed my life. I grew up in a very unsafe family environment. My father was an abusive, violent alcoholic. Would frequently see him beating my mother, would feel like I wanted to protect her, but would get caught in the crosshairs and be involved in that. There was one occasion I remember particularly when my mum was actually trying to escape. She'd gotten into the car, he'd already raped and beaten her. And so as she was trying to escape, he had climbed onto the car and was trying to smash the windscreen. I had yelled through the window for him to stop. He turned, ran after me, and she managed to escape, but I was beaten. And so it's not so much the event, but it's the beliefs and the meaning that I gave to that. And that was, I'm not worthy of protection. Nobody is safe. Can't trust anybody. It manifested in a lot of hypervigilance for me, constantly looking, is this person safe? When am I going to be beaten next? Just that general underlying tone of unsafety in the world that really has colored my entire life. And I built the belief that marriage is not for me. That's for other people. I will never have that. That's what I did believe until I met Alex. And that's when I was able to begin my journey towards healing and really move through and begin actually seeking help through coaches and therapists to work with a lot of those really challenging experiences, including sexual abuse, of a lot of that happening with various different male family members, that it was never safe to be in my body, not safe to shine, not safe to be visible. And the feeling that even down to a conflict is unsafe, an argument. I would frequently say to Alex at the beginning of our marriage, oh, we've had a fight, that means you're going to leave. That's the end of it. And so it's really beginning to work out the things that we have experienced in our lives, however big or small those events, those traumas were and are, they have a living charge in our nervous system still today that is unresolved and will continue to have an impact on our life until we stop and work with it through tapping and other modalities like that to heal it and to move through it, to clear it so that we can live the life that we truly deserve.
Yeah, and I think, the challenge that we all face, and again, I really wanted Karen to share her story because I think it is unfortunately a very common story, whether it's, all as much as she experienced or some of what she experienced, but it is altogether all too common story. And so I wanted to be able to share her side of really the spectrum of trauma, but also talk about, the middle in trauma and the smaller things of trauma, because a lot of times people feel like, well, I didn't have that stuff, so I don't have the same issues. So what's my challenge with relationships? What's my challenge with trauma? And the reality is that we all face traumas because, as Karen said, it is about how our nervous system processes experiences in our life. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my story because I had the opposite childhood to her. I had two great parents who made me feel loved. I grew up very, very lucky. I mean, for those of you, first off, I know, you're here with me this week, this month at tapping. And I know if you showed up last month, you're with my brother, Nick. The month before, you were with my sister, Jessica. There's the three of us here at the Tapping Solution. So you only get to see me every third month. And today I brought in another Ortner to come tap with us here today. But the three of us grew up in what we would call a safe environment. I grew up feeling loved, feeling like I was enough. But even with that, I had my own challenges and my own traumas that then impacted my relationship with Karen and with all the other women that I dated before that. I can tell you that I was a late bloomer. I still, my kids, I've got an 8, 10, and 12-year-old, and my 12-year-old is starting to ask questions, and I'm always very honest with him. And I told him, I said, I didn't kiss a girl until I was 18 years old. I was a late bloomer. I didn't date anyone in high school. I didn't date anyone until my junior year of college, and I think it lasted like 2 months. And then I didn't start to do more, dating until afterwards. And for me, all of those situations early on were very uncomfortable. And I think that if all of you think about the patterns that you have run in relationships, because that's really what we're talking about here, is we have these traumas that occur that then lead to beliefs of what we believe about relationships, about ourselves, and we bring all of that into a relationship and we run patterns. The most common pattern that people recognize from movies is like, oh, she's the one who likes the bad boys, right? Like it's oh, she attracts the bad boys over and over again. Well, we all run patterns like that of finding the same men or finding the same women over and over again, because we are running our same patterns over and over again. In relationships, we run the same patterns over and over again. How many of you in a relationship have had the same fight like 20 different times in a row and been like, why am I still here? Why am I not resolving this? Because of the patterns that we're running. And so the way that those things showed up for me in feeling, early on, that the experiences that I had with intimacy, with sex, with those relationships, was that I was not comfortable early on. And so that led to, as each relationship went by, I ran my patterns of running away quickly and, thinking, oh, there's the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, and looking to find somebody else because I was too scared to actually be in a relationship. And so, I mentioned that to say, hey, it's not necessarily about how tough was your childhood, how great was your childhood, were you somewhere in the middle, but to say that all of us in our lives have experiences, have traumas that led us to have certain beliefs and to run certain patterns that we have in our life right now. I know just from watching my kids, 8, 10, and 12 years old, I say my kids, it's really our kids, talking about our kids, that, the conversations that I have with them, the number of times they come home from school or from camp and say, well, this happened and that happened, and this person's picking on me and this person said this online, and you go, these are all those little traumas that stack up that build our belief system about the world, and then we bring those into a relationship. And sometimes early on in a relationship we can be in the honeymoon phase and everything can be fine, but as soon as we really start to get into it, we start to run those patterns over and over again. And so think about, well, what are those patterns that you run over and over again? And what are the things that you're doing over and over again? And what are those experiences from your past that led to you to have particular beliefs about yourself and about yourself in a relationship and about other people in a relationship, about relationships in general? I'm so excited to be here talking about friendship. Friendships is an area that I've struggled with a lot. I'll tell you, and a lot of people don't know this, but I was not born in the US. I was born in Argentina. I came to the US when I was 4 years old. And so I still remember some of those early experiences of going to school, not speaking a word of English. I know that some of those early experiences made me feel like I couldn't fit in, like I wasn't enough. But, as the years went by, I built some good friendships. I can still remember, just like the bad times, I can remember the good times. I still remember, if I were to ask me any years where I had my best group of friends, it was 8th grade, right? Middle school. Like, can any of you remember when you had like this good group of friends, whether it was like elementary school or middle school or high school or college? It's like a period where you're like, oh, I was really happy. I had this good group of friends. And then all of a sudden I remember, get to high school and a bunch of my friends started getting into drugs, and I just said, hey, you know what? That's not going to be me. So I lost a bunch of friends there. And in high school, I ended up having a couple of friends that were kind of the leftover friends that I had, but I wasn't super close with them. And I'd started to kind of close myself down a little bit. I remember being open when I was in middle school and then closing myself down a bit in high school and just feeling like I didn't fit in. I remember having friends in high school where, I can't imagine what it's like for kids nowadays with social media, because I remember kids getting together and then finding out that they got together and being like, oh, like, why wasn't I invited, right? How come they didn't want to hang out with me? I cannot imagine what it's like for kids now to go on social media and see their friends hanging out and feeling that level of rejection. And so what I want to do today, as we tap together, is to work on some of those hurts that we carry from the past, some of the social anxiety that we have. We also carry a lot of trauma from our past, all those experiences, right? What I want to help you all with today and what we can do together is to tap to really be our full and present self. How many of you, if you think about socializing with other people right now, if you think about being out there with people, even, forget COVID, whether it's outdoors and in a safe environment, how many of you feel social anxiety in your body? And I want you to actually rate that on a level of 0 to 10. So just think about, take a deep breath in. We'll all take a deep breath in together. So let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. And on that level of 0 to 10, how strong is that anxiety when you think about being present with others? Right? And it might not be really high, but you might know, hey, I'm still a little anxious, a little nervous around people. I'm not really my full self to be that magnetic personality that I know I can be, where I'm not worried about rejection. I'm not worried about other people are thinking or any of that kind of stuff. So I see some 5s, some 4s, some 6s, some 7s, some 3, a 3. Awesome. So some of you, it's not as much of a challenge for you. So let's go ahead. We're all going to start tapping together. We're going to start by tapping on the karate chop point, the side of the hand. Again, if you're new to it, just tap along with me. And you're going to repeat after me, repeat what I say. So even though I'm feeling this anxiety in my body, I acknowledge and accept what I'm feeling right now. Even though I'm feeling this anxiety in my body, when I think about socializing with other people, I acknowledge and accept how I'm feeling right now. Even though I'm feeling all this anxiety in my body, and it holds me back from being truly present, I acknowledge and accept that this is okay. And we're going to go to the eyebrow point. Remember, you can do it on one side, the other side, or both sides, whichever you prefer. I do one side just so you can see my face a little bit better. So just repeating after me, all this anxiety in my body. Side of the eye, it makes it tough to be present with others. Under the eye, I worry about what people will think or say. Under the nose, I worry that they won't like me. Chin point, I put so much pressure on myself. Collarbone point, I just want to fit in with others. Under the arm, I want to feel comfortable and safe around others. Top of the head, and it's so frustrating how sometimes I just freeze. Back to the eyebrow point, I just want to feel safe around others. Side of the eye, but I feel that anxiety jump up. Under the eye, and it feels out of my control. Under the nose, but I acknowledge that my body is just trying to keep me safe. Chin point, it's just my amygdala firing. Collarbone point, trying to keep me safe. Under the arm, so I choose to breathe and relax in this moment. Top of the head, knowing that I am safe right now. Eyebrow point, I've been hurt in the past. Side of the eye, and my body and brain has stored those memories. Under the eye, and it's protecting me from getting hurt again. Under the nose, just like I don't touch that hot stove anymore. Chin point, because my brain learned that it was dangerous. Collarbone point, my brain is trying to keep me safe. Under the arm, but I choose to rewire my brain and body in this moment. Top of the head, to let it know that it is safe. Eyebrow point, I can still feel safe around others. Side of the eye, and allow this anxiety to release. Under the eye, I am safe in this moment. Under the nose, and I can feel safe around others also. Chin point, what if I just opened up a little bit more? Collarbone point, what if I became a little more present with others? Under the arm, and remembered that we're all thinking about ourselves. Top of the head, and worrying about what others think of us. Back to the eyebrow point, I choose to breathe and relax in this moment. Side of the eye, to release some of this anxiety. Under the eye, to know that I can feel more safe around others. Under the nose, I'm okay. Chin point, allowing my body to breathe. Collarbone point, allowing my body to feel safe. Under the arm, everything is okay. Top of the head, one last time, I am safe. Let's stop there and take a deep breath in. And breathe out. Just notice, move your body a little bit. I saw some good yawns in there. If you're wondering why you yawn sometimes when you're tapping, it's just because your body is relaxing, right? Just like when we finally relax at the end of the day after a hard day, we yawn a bit. And so when we do the tapping and we yawn, it's just meaning that our body is finally relaxing, releasing a little bit.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.